why she loves this topic and why this matters to her. And then we're going to go into the group questions.
Okay, I too, hello everybody, thank you for joining us. I too am motivated by changing the world. That's really all I care about. And it sounds like super ambitious, but I don't care because 2 degrees plus time and you're in a completely different place. So that's my whole philosophy of life. I am a classically trained musician. I'm a violinist. And I remember even in college while I was a music major, sitting in my practice room alone, practicing Beethoven and thinking, this is never going to make a difference in the universe. Like, I feel like this is not my jam. This is not where we're going to end up. I want to go out there and work with people and influence the way things happen, which is, my whole family are musicians. That's a noble pursuit, but I just knew that was not going to be my road because I wanted to do something that would change people's lives in a permanent way. So I became a therapist, and in my course of being a therapist, I became a mission-focused entrepreneur. And in my work as both of those things, I founded the LISPY School because one, it's effective. It's an amazing way to hack your nervous system so that you can optimize really anything you're doing. And then another passion for me is that it's accessible. It's the cheapest mental health there is. All you need is a place to sit and your own breath. And so for me, bringing our skill set and our ability to help people change their lives into every neighborhood and every home, that really, really motivates me. So that's why I'm here. That's why I founded the LISPY School. Ali, I'm going to toss it to you.
Yeah, so this has been quite the ride for me. So hello, everybody. My name is Ali Haji. I am an LPCA, and I work actually at the Lifology Institute, which Mel also founded. She's this badass entrepreneur who started all these amazing companies that I'm very nicely wrapped up in now. But I've actually came to this program as a student initially. I'd practiced yoga for it was about a decade, it was about 10 years, and found this program through working at Lifology. And I'll be honest, like initially I was a little, I was like, I want a traditional yoga, teacher training, like just the ones you can get everywhere. And then Mel was like, let's talk about this a little bit. And she presented this idea of psychotherapeutic yoga. And so I said, okay, let me hop in and take this training. Now, for me, I had understood the value of really meditation first. And I understood kind of what connecting with my breath and this personal center and space that I always had access to as a place of peace. Like I started to understand what that really meant. And then I brought in this yoga component afterwards, and it was purely asana at the time, right? Just kind of the poses. And psychotherapeutic yoga, and our lead teacher, her name is Kim Cox. She's wonderful. And she basically, it was a tough one for me because I wanted to do all these poses, and it was like, no, we're teaching people why psychotherapeutic yoga, why yoga helps. How is yoga helping you regulate your nervous system? What other components can we bring in beyond just asana, beyond just these poses, and really teaching people how to regulate themselves. Something that I've learned in my own life is that my own ability to do that really allows somebody else to do that because it affects how I treat myself and then how I treat the people around me. So the change always starts within us. And this program, the LISPY School, the YogaZama program, this 200-hour training, that's this mission, right? We want to help people up-level their lives, optimize themselves in a way that is just, you can't go back. Once the seed is planted, it's like you just keep going. And now Mel and I are just like self-proclaimed nerds about yoga all the time. And it's like the only thing we can talk about. So that's why I'm here. And, I hope everybody can learn a bit more about how we're trying to change the world through this program. So thank you all for being here.
Before I open it up to some of the other incredible people on this call, what is psychotherapeutic yoga and why does it matter? Melanie? Yeah.
Like that. So psychotherapeutic yoga is a goal intention focused yoga. And our goal is to merge science and yoga tradition in order to change the up-level people's mental health and their physical health. So YogaZama means balance. So we're balancing science and tradition. We're balancing yoga with psychotherapy and neurobiology. It's a very science-based program. And it matters because, we all know, if you're here, you probably know the benefits of yoga. You know that you may sleep better and you know that you might, your anxiety might go down, but why? So YogaZama and psychotherapeutic yoga is about the why and what protocols do we need to put in place if we want to increase our energy, or if we want to bring our energy down, if we want to balance our energy, or if we need to settle or ground. There are protocols for all of those things, and they're all based in science, and we use the techniques of yoga to make it all happen. So that's why psychotherapeutic yoga, it matters in my field, because we use it all the time to reach the parts of the brain that we can't reach through thought or through insight. So you can use your body to change pretty much anything that's happening in your mind and in your brain. That's why it's important to me. Ollie, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, something I talk to people a lot about as far as psychotherapeutic yoga goes and this training is that I'm sure we all know, as people who kind of work in the space, there are so many critics of, it's your breath. I mean, I have my breath all the time. Like, what's the point of this, right? And you can teach people how to regulate themselves, extend your exhale, things like this diaphragmatic breathing. But I think what psychotherapeutic yoga really offers is this education about the neuroscience component of it, right? So manipulate your breath in this way, and this is what is actually happening to your nervous system. Here is the science-based, evidence-backed material for you to read to understand this, so that you are more informed in teaching the people around you. So I think for me, something else that psychotherapeutic yoga offers is a language, right? We can learn to speak and access more people with these same concepts in a way that works for them, in a way that they'll hear it and say, okay, this is something I can really get behind. I'm usually not into the woo-woo stuff, right? But if it's science-based, I'll go along with it. And so this is kind of bridging that gap, right? Yoga tradition and neuroscience. So yeah, just to add that on, yeah.
Part of the reason that I was excited to take a YogaZama class was so I could self-regulate, and I use it every day in reality. But I would love to open up the floor to Connie, who's here from Worthy Beyond Purpose. I know that changing the world really matters to her, and I'd love her to share what she does and why changing the world is now her whole life mission.
Hi, everybody. I wasn't prepared to be called out on the spot, so bear with me.
Sorry about that.
So I have a nonprofit. It's called Worthy Beyond Purpose. What we do is we teach mindfulness and meditation to children around the world. And when COVID hit, we went online like everybody else, and we were able to really reach kids from all over the world. It was absolutely incredible to be able to go on this journey with them. Our motto is transforming the world one mindful kid at a time. So I relate to what everybody has said so far. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what this is, because we're always growing and expanding and partnering and looking for, great minds to collaborate. So that's what we do. That's what we're about. I hope we can collaborate somehow. It sounds amazing.
Thank you, Connie. Yes. And thank you for allowing me to pick on you first, because Connie was just on the Powerful Ladies podcast, my podcast, and her story is incredible. If you like getting goosebumps and you like believing that the universe is magical all over again, listen to her episode, because I could not believe how many kismet moments continue to happen in her evolution from where she was to what she's doing now. And in fact, Connie, I have seen zebras so many times since our podcast. Rob, I'm gonna have to start texting you everyone that I see. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I'd love to open it up. I know that there's other people in here, Anna and Adeline and Dahlia, who also care about changing the world. So what would you guys like to say about what motivates you for changing the world? And Kendra as well. Yeah.
Just people.
Yeah.
That's what motivates me. People that especially marginalized individuals that are really, really struggling. Not that we all are struggling right now, but those who are marginalized are really very vulnerable and at risk. And so I really enjoyed doing the psychotherapeutic yoga course. And actually, I'm going to be famous because my marketing team has decided they want to videotape me. Like I actually did a little video for TikTok, which I'm not even a TikTok person. So I'm doing legs up the tree on my campus, and they shot me. And I guess it's going to be out next week because of Mental Health Awareness Month. But just a real quick thing to do to like calm the mind and the body and relieve stress and anxiety. So just like kind of out there for the masses, and it's all psychotherapeutic yoga, changing the world through TikTok.
Dahlia, thank you for jumping in. I'm just going to pick on you a little bit. Dahlia took the last YogaZama training with Ali and myself. And so we were all co-students together. And her response to the pandemic was to think that this is the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah, chance of a lifetime.
Chance of a lifetime. To let's change how we think. Let's rise to the occasion. Let's change the world. We have this opportunity. It's so disruptive. Let's make something wonderful out of it. So this is what I love about Dahlia.
Thank you.
And Dahlia, do you want to tell everybody what you do so we can have some context of how you're applying changing the world in your own way?
I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm the assistant director of counseling services for Dallas College. And we have 7 campuses. We have over 80,000 students, and our students just very, very diverse population. And most of them are studying remotely, although we're now doing in-person sessions. So I manage a pretty big team, and we're all about trying to meet the students where they're at. So we're doing, like I said, face-to-face sessions with mask and plexiglass. We're doing outdoor sessions now. Like I started this whole outdoor yoga thing. So just one student at a time, hopefully, and then they go home and they help their families to learning from us, how to take care of themselves. So I miss everybody from the group. I really do.
It's so good to see you. I still haven't forgiven you for leaving us in chair pose for so long, but
truly by the end we were just done. I wanted to also thank you so much, Dahlia, for offering that. Someone else that I would love to, if she's down to speak, Adeline was also a graduate of the program. And something that's really wonderful about Adeline is that she was already a yoga teacher. So she's already on this mission to teach people these things. And so I'd love, Adeline, if you don't mind, Adeline's based in Barcelona, so it's a bit late for her right now. But I'd love if you could speak a little bit to how the psychotherapeutic yoga training, added more to what you were already doing so beautifully.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Oh my God, it's so good to see you and to see Dahlia. I missed you guys so much. Like this training, it's like a new family to me. So yes, I'm Adeline. Hi, everyone. I was already a yoga teacher in Hatha and Vinyasa, but then I was really attracted to the energy of this group because all about the neuroscience was really important to me. As a yoga teacher, you just know how to do correctly the poses and how to make sure your student don't get injured, but you never really learn what's happening and why yoga is working. And so to me, it was really this brain piece that was missing. And I was like, no, wait, I really want to understand why yoga can create a specific energetic effect. So I was really hungry for knowledge. And that's why I went to the Psychotherapeutic yoga teacher training. And after those 200 hours, I was like, oh my God, I'm ready. Like, I really felt like I knew everything, which obviously I don't, but I really had this feeling like now I can convince anyone that is still not 100% into yoga, why they should do yoga, why they should do meditation, why they should try mindfulness, why they should learn to control their breath, because there is almost a magic formula if you want to tackle your problems like anxiety, depression, insomnia, whatever you're suffering, name it, that like you will find a way to work on it. And I've tested for myself because even though I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a very stressed person. And this was so helpful, so helpful for me, for my clients, and just letting you know, like those new concept of yoga that are really brain driven, developed by neuroscientists and therapists, are very, very successful. Like I'm starting to work with athletes very high athletes, and they love it. Like they seriously love it. They're just like 100% on it. So you will really find a good group of clients after that, because this is something unique that you can offer to your clients. So thank you so much again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Adeline. We love you. And also on here we have Kendra, who is amazing, and she's really committed to going to Guatemala potentially. She's doing this intensive. She loves mixing yoga and other things together. So Kendra, would you mind introducing yourself and what yoga means to you and what kind of mission you're on with that?
Yeah, I guess my yoga journey, I did start with yoga being more of the physical side of yoga. I started at like a core power for the fitness of it. And then over time started integrating like the breath work, which I do every day, and meditation. And then I think what interests me with this yoga is I'm really interested in holistic approaches to systems. Actually the the yoga teacher training that I'm doing in Guatemala in November is a permaculture based yoga teacher training. So a lot of permaculture is like focusing on zones, typically like within a landscape, but a lot of times there's a spiritual element to it if you want there to be, where zone 0 is actually like your own internal system. So yeah, I think what I'm excited about this is like, I want to know yoga in all of its facets, but also know like what's happening internally as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. One of the coolest parts, as Adeline mentioned, of what once you know the secret formula, you can use it on yourself. You can use it on other people. I regularly use it with clients when I'm doing coaching calls and they're remote. And you wouldn't think that you could help somebody that you're literally talking to on the phone, but you can. And a lot of people here I know want to make impacts at big levels. Like Connie and I had a whole discussion about, what if every student had meditation? Like, could we get rid of school shootings? Could we get rid of other pain and suffering? To me, that's the most important reason why this is an urgent matter. How do we get more people to have access to their own mental health optimization and the other benefits that you get of, whether it's feeling connected or feeling whole or whatever else applies to you through a yoga, meditation, mindfulness experience? What are some groups that really matter to you guys that you want to be able to have more tools to impact? And you can say it out loud or you can put it in the chat as well.
Well, I'd like to address that first, Kara, if I may. One of the things that we do here at Lifeology is a franchise mental health and wellness practice. And it's a multi-specialty collaborative group, and also a training facility. So we've got, since we have interns, we can charge $35 an hour, we can charge $250 an hour, but you get the same set of brains for whatever it is you're paying. So our goal is to bring mental health, exceptional mental health care to everybody. And one of the things that we're doing at Lifeology is we have contracts in the DFW area with 10 local municipalities, and we do all of their first responder trauma work. So we get the cops and the firemen and the EMTs and all the people who see trauma every day and who are hypervigilant and overreactive and angry and frustrated and whose lives are falling apart and who are likely to make a mistake on the job. And so part of our mission is to help them manage their nervous systems and to clear the trauma and to heal the trauma in their brains, because they think it's a mind thing. I don't know why I can't get over this. I should be fine by now. We help them understand what really happened in that deep part of their brain, and that trauma is affecting the way that they're functioning in their job and in their life, and that we can put a crowbar in that and we can fix it. So by doing that, I think that you're talking about school shootings. I think that we can impact the people who are really have our lives in their hands. And this is such an important topic right now, of course. And then additionally, we're reaching communities who are at high risk, like many people I've talked about in this call. It's a real passion to bring what we do to people who otherwise would not have access to it, because life is trauma, poverty is trauma, trauma is everywhere. We're all experiencing it. So how can we what can we do about that? Well, we know what we can do about that, and we can bring it to anybody. It's a real passion of mine. And I know Ali shares it as well.
Yes, Jenna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jenna Haji. I'm coming to you from London, Ontario in Canada. And just for some context, I'm a pediatric speech language pathologist, and I work in the education system, servicing elementary school students with language, speech, and literacy-based needs. I am also in the process of completing my 200-hour registered yoga teacher training program and will be certified in June. So yoga has also been kind of a pillar of my life lately. Melanie, what you were saying about trauma really resonates with me as well. COVID has, kind of shaken up everyone's lives, and I'm also in the process of healing from a pretty recent loss in my life and a pretty traumatic loss. So implementing a lot of these strategies, yoga, mindfulness, personally has been just life-changing for me. My background is in neuroscience and communication, and particularly supporting social emotional learning in young kids in the elementary school system. And so that's a huge area of passion for me to start. I love what Connie was saying about building those skills early for our kids, and we're shaping the minds of the future generations, essentially. Another population I really feel would benefit from more training and involvement in these kind of principles are the people who are supporting this education, that are often on the front lines and burnt out, especially this time in the year. So our educators and our healthcare professionals. A lot of the work that I do on the side is facilitating wellness programs for educators in the elementary school system, as well as graduate students of healthcare professional programs, supporting them with tools and skills that they may need to help regulate their bodies, their minds, their systems as they are to fill their own cup in order to then go out into the world and support all of the populations that they're trying to help.
Yeah, I love that. So many great communities that you listed, and I love that you're hitting all the marks for an ideal LISPY candidate, right? There's so much happening in the world today, right? Like already this group has mentioned students, first responders, high-risk communities, minorities, elementary students, educators, healthcare. I only mentioned athletes. A missing that I see, so being a business coach, I'm always looking at what's the missing, right? Where's the opportunity that we aren't connecting? And for me, for a long time, when we've looked at yoga, meditation, mindfulness, breath work organizations, the missing has been that the listening is only available to people who kind of believe in what's considered woo-woo, right? They're open to those things. What I love about what the LISPY School is bringing in YogaZama is that it anchors it in science-based research so that we can finally have breakthroughs with people who are looking for proof, right? Like so often we can't prove, we can't measure how mindfulness helps somebody, but when we have the neuroscience and the psychology behind it, we can. And so for me, there's been huge breakthroughs in not only being more open for me to take it, because I didn't want to take a regular yoga class before because I wanted more. Like I'm a super nerd. I love reading, right? I want the stuff. But it also helps to be able to talk to people who are open to it or not open to it, logical based versus emotional. And I think for everyone, knowing that there is a formula to plug in and like it actually works, it's not just what a bunch of people in a circle, saying kumbaya are referencing, like it helps, right? So having these breakthroughs to speak to more people who maybe have been resistant or hesitant or unsure, I think is a really valuable skill. I know Connie's experienced a lot of breakthroughs in people who couldn't even use the word meditation and now they can. I know Adeline breaking through with people in, high performing athlete space who are like, no, like that's not what I need. what would it be like for you guys to have what I'm describing to access more of the people that you want to?
Can I add something, Kara, actually, just on that note? Because what was speaking to me and what spoke to me about the program was the education piece. And I think redefining a lot of the concepts of what people think they know, right? So as a therapist, so I work in trauma recovery solely, and I work through a holistic trauma model. Like I could literally, I would love to just do away with all of the diagnoses that come in my door and just say these are just clusters of symptoms that all have to do with our separation from self, right? So yoga is this process by which we come home to ourselves, right? We teach people to come home to ourselves. I don't know if y'all know the Ram Dass quote, we're all walking each other home, right? That's a lot of what I think about in yoga teacher trainings. So I think like on this education angle, right? It's like so many people would say, I was one of these people that would say, I have not been traumatized. You know, my childhood was great. Like I have nothing to complain about. And then you kind of really learn what trauma is and how nuanced it is and how life is an unavoidable trauma. And then we start to say, oh, there is definitely work that I can do. So I think like a lot of this is also just based in psychoeducation and teaching people what is actually going on in our system every day. I just wanted to add that because that was such a good point. But yeah, I mean, I would love to open this up. Jenna, I thought I saw you raise your hand as far as something during when Kara was speaking.
I was actually lowering my hand from before, but I do have a thought about this, and I'm thinking like a lot of my job is addressing barriers to access. And so I think that's where like my brain kind of goes to, I know someone had mentioned, you know, our vulnerable populations, and there's economic disparities in terms of accessing a lot of these programs, at least from what I see in my communities here in Ontario, in terms of like, how can we brainstorm ways to make these educational endeavors more accessible to people who may have barriers, whether it's economic or time barriers? How do we make the information that we want to present, that education piece, more accessible and less woo-woo or less jargony or sciencey, and how do we translate that into a really accessible way for digesting for just even the lay person, right? So I guess that's kind of what's going on in my brain right now.
So I think we're on an important topic here because translating the woo-woo into science, what does it mean? Why does it work? I think it's crucial. I myself am a reluctant yogi. I came to yoga because I switched gyms and there were no Pilates classes that fit my schedule. I was that person. And my only fitness goals, I didn't want my butt to slide down the back of my thighs. I was in my 40s and it was like time to start worrying about that. And then I started noticing in yoga, like I'm sleeping better and I'm not as anxious and I have fewer kidney infections, and what's happening with all that? And I didn't really know. And then I had this case, and this is the sort of the story of LISPY. I had this case in my clinical practice that involved grief and loss and trauma with this family the mother had died of ALS, and it had taken her 2 or 3 years to die at home, and of course it traumatized her children. And the middle kid in this family came back to me several years after that case with her own new symptoms. So I worked with her and we worked on some of the things that were happening with her. She had developed an eating disorder. She had started cutting, and she was having these violent nightmares about her mother's death that were showing up in her art. And through all of my experience as a therapist, I could not get to that part of her brain. So literally, I asked my yoga teacher from Equinox to come and work with this person, and we moved the coffee table out of the way in my office, and he worked with her in my office a few times and was able, just through yoga and movement and breath, to put a crowbar in that whole part of her brain and release her from the things that she was really captured by, that she couldn't release herself from. So I was sold. I'm like, okay, we're building a yoga studio, we're hiring some yogis, and that was my first hire. So we did this work for a while, and then I realized, oh my gosh, we need a training. We need to put the science and the education, all of it together so that we can show people why this works, what it is, what it means, and how you can implement it, and how you can share it with the people who who may not even realize they need it. It had never occurred to me to bring yoga into the therapy room before that. So that's a really crucial piece of what we do. I want to call out for just 1 second Olga, because Olga is a LISPY graduate as well, and I have not seen you in some time. Olga, I'm so glad that you joined us today. Can you share with us a little bit about how LISPY has affected your work in your life?
Thank you. Yeah, I was excited when I saw this announcement because it's kind of like was always on the back of my mind. And I just share with Jenna that it's actually like very interesting because I came out from a science background. I graduated with my PhD in behavior and brain science. So, and kind of like my journey is from mind. I'm like almost in my head. So like it's very hard for me to go into my body, even though like I did a lot of yoga practice before, but yoga for me was not only like just exercises. I wanted to understand. And when I find out this training, and it's also kind of like interesting that we've Melanie met before in Equinox, so kind of like because I also was like drawn by this kind of people who provide not just the exercise but just kind of like some meaning into the yoga practice. So when I saw this program, I was just like completely sold and excited, and I graduated from this training and it was amazing for me. And but it's kind of like was really hard for me to implement it into my kind of work life because I'm an SLP and I work with kids and I also work in research. And I also kind of like during the pandemic, we started kind of like Instagram, almost a blog to talk about this mental health and yoga. And it's actually like was rising. We was invited to like talk on a different podcast or kind of like share this experience. And I'm originally from Russia, so like my Russian colleagues like came and like, can you tell us more about that and what did you do? So kind of like I think my big mission is very similar to kind of spread the word, help more people, and kind of like when you ask this question like what population are you working with, and I'm like kind of basically whoever needs it, like kids, adults, students, like business owners, like basically everybody. And right now actually I moved to Seattle, so like I'm in Seattle now. So and I'm kind of doing this work and also research and a little bit of SLP work, but also kind of like I'm at the point right now that I really need some group of self-minded people to help me like put the pieces together. And you ask like kind of what's the barriers and how you need to bring it together, and like kind of connections and community and like all of that. It's super important for me. So thank you for bringing this people together and for creating Lifeology. Like it was like really life-changing thing. Thank you.
So I want to share like how to kind of normalize. I think it's really important to normalize psychotherapeutic yoga or yoga. To it's every individual can do it at any time, anywhere. So what I've been doing, because not only do I work with students, but we work with the community. So we had the North Texas Food Bank at our campus 3 days ago, and it was a drive-by. People in their cars, and we had to load the food into their trunk, and bags and bags of vegetables and food. But before we started, we were all kind of stressed because it was the first time we were going to be doing this. The team at Northlake, the counseling team, as well as like these other teams that were helping us. So I said, okay, because we were like really stressed about like maybe it's going to pour on us and we're still going to do this as long as there isn't any lightning. So I said, okay, let's just start by doing Tadasana. Let's just stand here and like take in this fresh air before the storm comes, and just did a little bit of mindfulness and breathing with the group. And these were like colleagues, and they were all like, oh my God, let's just open up. And then we were like, go, putting in things in the cars. And then we'd have a break, and they said, Dahlia, can we do another mindfulness experience? And then we would do that. And just just even walking with a colleague that's stressing and saying, okay, let's go hug this tree and let's practice doing, doing a yoga pose, a simple pose or a twist. Really, that's the way to go. I mean, yes, it's wonderful to have classes and to have it all set up, structured, and the psychoeducational piece, but if we really want to change the world, we have to do it all the time, everywhere, with everybody.
That's wonderful, Dahlia. I love that you said that, and the work happens all the time, right? It's kind of like an all day, every day thing. And I think part of what YogaZama wants to do, right? We're taking these very traditional concepts and even yoga, even though it is a little more mainstream, like you can find a yoga class today and pop into it, right? To really make it like imbue it into people's lives. I think a big part of the program that I really love also is that we want to really factor in the reality of people's lives as yoga teachers, like if that's the direction they're going, or if they want to start a business. And so Kara didn't mention this, she's very humble about this, but she teaches the business section in our curriculum, like really teaching students how to take YogaZama. And like, we're not just going to stop there, like really build your business with this. Like, how can you get more people in? How can you start doing YogaZama based classes? So that's this whole component of the training as well, where let's teach you all the stuff. And then we really want you to go out and change the world with it. Like, teach other people about this, get people into your classes. I just wanted to mention that as well.
Well, and Ellie, I think that matters so much, right? Because if we're here to change the world and we're here to make a ripple effect, if we learn this amazing stuff, if we keep it to ourselves, we haven't succeeded. And sometimes the hardest part is, how do I tell somebody else? Or what do I need to build to communicate this? Or how do I find the right people? And so that's why, it's called a business section, but in reality, it's like, how do I go and share this with the world section? Because that's how we see the impact that happens. I know some people on this call have taken some development training programs that I have. And one of the things that we look at in those is, how big is your impact, and how can you really add up how many people you're impacting with the work you do? And I love that, if we just look at Dahlia's example, the number of people she's impacted from what she shared just today is crazy, right? And so how do we get more people to have this education? Because you don't need to go to, like, usually you have to go to a yoga class and not know why it helps, but just know, I have to get there. That's the source of help. And now with this training, you are the source because you have the knowledge. So you can literally take the piece you need at any moment to help yourself or people around you. And the fact that we can pass that on and show other people is incredible, because we live in such a busy, crazy world that we haven't had the opportunity for a year now to go to a yoga class. So how do I solve whatever's happening with me right now in 5 minutes and go? I recently did a YogaZama class for York Athletics. It's my friend's company based in Boston. And they wanted to know what it was and how they could use it. So we did a 30-minute mini class. And I keep getting texts from everybody about, I got stressed out, I just forward folded. I now have this system. Like, if I start getting anxiety, I stand up and I forward fold. I don't care what I'm doing. And so it's just great to be able to give people these things, because like, it's changing, it's making such an impact, even though it's so quietly doing so. And there's so many fierce people on this call. I just want everyone to have access to what this is, because I really do believe it's source of changing the things that we want to have happen. And because it combines so many things, it really is what I think is next level yoga, but it's really more what's next level mental health. And that's why I think it's so cool.
Question. What's the approach to psychotherapeutic yoga? Is it like a class, or is it more of a one-on-one session where you figure out what's happening within and then you prescribe movement?
Can I answer? I'm so glad you asked that, because I was just about to start talking about the way we structure this course and how it's different from maybe another yoga teacher training or any other trainings that you've gone to. And we've changed this, Olga, since you were in the class. So it's a very application-based program. So we're giving you all of this information, but every week we're tying it together for you so that we're integrating it as we go along. And we're also explaining how to apply it. So one of the things that happens in this class is that everybody, their final assignment is you're assigned a case study, and also you teach a 30-minute class that's a goal-directed class based on what you've learned. So the case studies are now written by your fellow students. So I wrote a case study of somebody I would want to know, like, what would you guys do to help this person? And then it was assigned to somebody else on the team. And then on our final weekend, you get to see what happens, what your teammates have come up with on behalf of that client. And you're also coming up with a whole protocol based on everything you've learned on behalf of the case that you've received. And then additionally, you're teaching a class, a 30-minute class, and this is why we were goosing Dahlia about the chair pose, because she would not let us out of chair pose, and it was the end of the day. It was brutal. But she had a reason that she did that, and we stayed in the chair pose, and it totally worked. But the case studies, we follow a case study all the way through the program. That's one that everybody's learning, but actually being able to apply the knowledge yourself is, I think, a key component to what we do. So ideally, by the end, if you have 20 people in your class, you've now seen 20 options about random things, and they're wildly different from one another, the case studies. Mine involved, since I'm a clinician, my case study was the one that Dahlia wrote, I believe, and it involved somebody who had severe suicidal ideation. So that was a case that came to me as a clinician. It would not come to a member of the class who was not a clinician. So people were able to see what we did with that case. And then I think, Kara, I don't remember what case you wrote. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I literally used one of my private business clients, right, who was having some struggles about confidence and belief and stress out and having insomnia. So what's great about the program is because it's for people who have yoga backgrounds or non-yoga backgrounds or therapeutic backgrounds or not. Like, it really is open to anybody. What's great to see is both the way that it can be applied by people who are certified therapists and people who aren't, because for me, having the insight to how Melanie would apply it in a trauma-based situation gave me so much knowledge about what's going on with that person. So I could then partner with somebody like Melanie to help somebody in my world. And this collaboration and partnership is so important, because I can teach psychotherapeutic yoga to one of my clients, but not being a therapist, I can only take it so far. So a lot of the conversations also, how do we partner with other people and collaborate so we can help the person at every level that they need, who whether it's a physician or a therapist or you name it. So really taking on the practice of, I'm committing to helping this person, but it doesn't have to be me to complete the task, I think is also really insightful. But not having visibility to what someone like a Melanie or Ali how they would take psychotherapeutic yoga in their world, it's so eye-opening to know where I get to stop and hand off the responsibility and how far I can really help people. Just like when you start coaching, you can't turn coach off. Like, you just see all people as a coachee. And so now with the psychotherapeutic yoga training, I have an eye for, like I bet they're dealing with X, Y, and Z. So I can ask and explore and open up more conversations and help guide them somewhere. Where before, I would have either been too afraid of supporting somebody who said that they were feeling depressed or having anxiety, because I would be like, oh, that's a scary topic. Go to a therapist. I can't help you. But now I'm like, oh, I know what those words mean. I know what they are. Let's talk about it. And then I can get you to the right place. So it's helped me. It allows me to help more people because I did this program. But it's also really confidence boosting, knowing I know exactly where my line is. I can help you up to here. And then I'm calling Mel.
And as far as that, on that note, as far as application goes, Kendra, as far as like how this can look after you graduate from the program. So, scope of practice is always a huge component, right? Because for us, the safety of the people who are taking part in the program and just the ethical practice of all of it is our primary concern always. That being said, even if somebody is not a clinician, kind of like what Kara's speaking to, we teach how to work with special populations, right? So if somebody's coming in and they say to you, hey, yeah, you know, I have this trauma background, like we even go through how to set up the class to work with that. Like, are we doing hands-on assists, or is that extremely triggering for this client? Are we asking them to close their eyes? That could make somebody feel very, very unsafe given what their history is, right? So we go through these diagnoses not as a means of necessarily teaching people how to diagnose, but as a means of, you need to be informed about the clients that are coming into your space. On top of that, then, you know, it can take many different forms. So the way that I use psychotherapeutic yoga now is through clinical work, right? So Mel has referred a few clients to me as well. So I work one-on-one with these people. I learn what they need energetically, and I build classes that are based on that. You can also, if you own a yoga studio, if you want to own a yoga studio, you can have a YogaZama studio, and we'll teach you a framework for how to run your classes through the YogaZama lens. So it can take many different forms depending on where you're going, but we, at the end of the day, we value just like referrals, knowing where your education stops and where you need to refer to somebody else for the sake of the client that's in front of you.
And it really is a meet you where you are program, as Ali's speaking to. So if you already have a yoga studio or a meditation program, how can this layer on to provide people even more tools? If you are a therapist, how can you put it into your toolkit in your office? If you are none of those things, like how do you use it for yourself and use it for your family and your community? You know, everyone who graduates is qualified to teach yoga, right? Because you're 200 certified. But the yoga, I feel like it's Jedi superpower yoga versus regular, because based on reading the room, I could change the class to help people have more energy or have less stress. And so it's really incredible to kind of have my fingers on these switches of how do I get people to where they need to go. And it's cool that, you know, even a small yoga studio, you know, one of my joking things on my dream list is like, if everything falls apart, I'll just teach yoga in Bali at hotels because I'm qualified. But I could literally, but even the yoga that you would get from that would be so different because it's truly next level yoga. So I love that this can graft onto wherever people are at and what they want. And literally it gets embedded into the work that you're already doing or where you want to go. And that's a big thing we cover in the business module, because if you have these superpowers, I want you to be empowered to use them. Yeah. So I'm quickly going to screen share again as we are getting close to our time for the day. Give me 1 second to pull it up. My computer is not cooperating. Okay, there we go. And that's because I closed the presentation, which is not helpful. So as I'm pulling this up, I'll let you guys, who else has some questions about how we can change the world with these tools, what these tools are. Like, I'll open it up to anyone to put questions in the chat or just jump in. You don't need to raise your hand.
Also, any questions about curriculum or any of the week-to-week things that we do, you know, use this space to answer any of those questions, because we understand, you know, if you're going to sign up, there's a time commitment, there's a financial commitment, and we want to be real about that. So we can also use the space for any questions about any of that nitty-gritty specific stuff.
As someone who's currently doing a 200-hour program over here in Toronto, I am curious about how the difference between the psychotherapeutic yoga and a regular yoga program, as someone who will be like a yoga teacher, what will I add on beyond the connection to the brain and the science of it? Are there overlaps between like regular yoga teacher training programs, or are they pretty distinct types of trainings?
Yeah, Mel, go ahead and take this one. Yeah.
That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked that. So the course structure, we start with anatomy, just like a lot of yoga teacher training programs do. And I think weekend 2, if I'm not mistaken, Ali, is still neurobiology, right? So we spend the whole weekend on neurobio, and it's a deep dive into neurobio and how your nervous system works. Then the next weekend is asana. Am I right about that? And Ollie really is the one that knows the curriculum better than I do, because we just reordered it. But it takes all of the things that are in a typical yoga teacher training and adds that science component. And then, like I said, it's in an applicational bucket the whole time. Here's what you would do. So one of the things that's interesting that Kara did in our in the training that we did together, she put together a yoga class for a running group, a men's running group that she knows in California. And they're just a bunch of runners, and they just like run and get hot, and then they go out for beer, and that's their jam. And so she put together a yoga class to help them down regulate and balance. That was a specific protocol that she had learned for them that she could apply to their lives through the applying and combining the components of the YogaZama training. So even just walking into any yoga class, even a power yoga class, and I'm frustrated by this honestly very often in my yoga classes at the gym, because I'm thinking, you're telling me to breathe, but you're not telling me why I need to breathe or how I need to breathe, and you're not reading the room. Like, this room is full of really tense, high achieving people. You could be helping us down regulate, and by the end we would be balanced, and our nervous systems would be together, and we would have gotten a great workout. So we're helping you apply all that science to whatever situation that you're walking into and whoever you're dealing with. Is that helpful?
There's also a lot of info, you know, like about this holistic trauma model, right? Like really understanding the mind-body connection. So in this neurobio weekend, right, we get pretty specific. Like it's not an easy program in the sense that there's a lot to keep up with. It's a pretty challenging curriculum. Like we're getting into neurotransmitters, the types of neurotransmitters, what's actually happening in a traumatized brain. What does stress actually do to the body, right? Polyvagal theory, the vagus nerve, all of these other pieces that are kind of left out of other yoga programs, but are so important, you know, just as far as understanding things like your body responds first. And really, you know, gut instinct is a real thing. It is because of the vagus nerve. Your gut is actually communicating with your brain in all these number of ways. How can you use Ayurvedic concepts to help heal your gut? How can you use sleep to help heal your brain throughout the day, right? To use it to process things more. So we get really deep into all these things. And then another piece is we actually have 2 weekends that are almost specifically devoted just to psychopathology and mental health. So this is where we actually teach, we walk through diagnoses. This is what this is going to look like. This is what this is going to look like. Not as a means of somebody diagnosing so much as just being well informed as to the clients that are walking in the room. So those are kind of the things that we've kind of imbued into the program that we think kind of separates it from others. Yeah.
And every segment that is in a traditional yoga teacher training, because there are basic requirements for a 200-hour certification through Yoga Alliance, you know, when we're talking about anatomy, it's still, as Melanie will say, seeped in this psychotherapeutic yoga level. So when we're talking about different things, it's how does it relate back to this bigger picture of the mind-body full connection. So you're learning this, you might be learning the same asanas, but we're focused on why do we need this and what does it do, and how would we might even think about a pose differently than you would in a traditional yoga class. It's hard because a lot of traditional yoga teacher training is really varied, and it really shifts between, is this a fitness-based yoga? Is this a mindfulness-based yoga? Is it something else? So I love that everything I learned in this program, I knew was tying back to this higher level of helping people, use the fundamentals of science and yoga to do the psychotherapeutic piece. So even people who've taken, like Adeline took other yoga teacher training before she took this one, and every class she still was a part of and watched because she was learning new stuff that she hadn't learned before. Which I think is true for anybody when you take yoga from different classes as well. But specifically this one, seeing how it all tied together and they were linked, I think is really cool. One of the graphics we used to use was like the spine connecting everything, because it did. Like, this is talking about a 360 whole person, right? That I think, as Kendra said, zone 0. And so for us to understand zone 0, we have to know how the anatomy does impact everything else. and how it all said, like Ali mentioned, the Ayurveda, the asanas. Even like one of the coolest conversations that I thought we had was in the mindfulness and meditation section, because we kind of nerded out and we're talking about beats per minute and how that impacts people, and even how sounds can have trauma behind them. Like, it was one of the coolest conversations that I didn't expect to have, but because we were bringing so much different perspective to the table, I wish that every mindfulness and meditation training included this piece, because just the simple idea of like not asking people to close their eyes, game changer, right? It's a simple thing, but it's such a powerful tool to have. So we're about to run out of time. I'm going to quickly screen share, and then we can go back to any other open questions. But essentially, LISPY in the YogaZama that LISPY offers, it is a psychotherapeutic yoga teacher training. You do get qualified RYT 200 hours, but you also get PYT if you're a teacher. So psychotherapeutic yoga teacher 200 certification, or psychotherapeutic yoga clinician if you are a licensed therapist. But the best part about this is that we do want to help you up-level your business or graft this into what you're already doing, so that you can really expand how you're impacting the world and to what extent. A lot of you guys mentioned as well, like, where's the community that we have? And so we are building and have added on a community element so that we can all stay connected, because who I want in my corner is all of you, right? People who really are committed to how do we change the world and make the world a better place and use these incredible tools. And there's also, not only do you get to transform your mental health and the mental health of others that you're serving or in your community, there's a ton of partnership and collaboration opportunities that are built into this. The long-term vision really is having an entire, YogaZama crew out there in the world making things happen. So YogaZama is here to support that really coming to fruition versus it just being an idea. We have our next program is starting in June. It's now open for registration. I will put the link in the chat shortly, unless Mel or Ali can drop it in. But essentially, if you sign up between now or Monday, we have a special code called Change the World, where you get 20% off, which makes this, material incredible. The retail price was originally $4,000, but where we've priced it now for June and what the discount code gets you to, it's around $2,500 if you pay in full. And we also have installment plans, which are also can be discounted with this 20%. So it's for the Change the World. The investment is, I think it's an investment that's worth it when it comes to what's the impact that we can make. And I will drop in the link right now. And so, of course, if this is something that you're interested, we'd love for you to sign up, ask us questions. I will send out a thank you to you guys. So you have all the contact information from Ali, Mel, or I. But also, if you have a community where this sounds like a great fit, we've had somebody reach out to us and say, hey, I'd love to put 20 people through this program. Can we create a program together? We love those ideas, right? How do we get as many people to have this information and have these skills so we can partner together to really make an impact? And that's it. I'll stop talking. So what do you guys, questions you have, final thoughts? Time commitment. Do you want me to speak to that?
Oh yeah, I was just going to answer Connie's I think she put a question in the chat what the time commitment was. So Mel answered already. Yeah, so it's a 9-week program. We have it starts the weekend of June 4th. I believe that's the Friday. It's either June 3rd or June 4th for that weekend. We have a little bit that Friday night, and then full day Saturday and Sunday for 9 weeks, except for the 4th of July weekend. Now, this virtual training has allowed us to reach people all over the place. But, when Adeline was in the program, she had this 7-hour time difference. So we work with people's schedules. We understand if you have to miss a weekend or two, it's totally okay. We will have additional work for you to do just to show that you are up to speed on the information. But we work with everybody. So, but yeah, for this training, 9-week program, that 1 week of July 4th weekend off.
And speaking as somebody who's excessively busy when it comes to what's on my calendar, as Ali mentioned, I was able to totally make it work. If I had things scheduled, I let them know there's all replays, everything's there. So you can do it from home later. I was able to catch up. And if I had to come in a little bit later, leave a little bit early, I would just watch that extra part later. And actually it's kind of great to be able to go back into the online program and like do a bunch of Kim's yoga workouts later. So you have all the tools and materials forever. So it includes all the videos, the replays, the live programs. There's a whole manual included. There is some homework between the courses. There's some journaling exercises. Everything is built so that you guys can get it as fast as possible, and also for feedback. So the teachers know, like, is this, where is anyone stuck anywhere or not? But of all the yoga teacher training programs I've ever looked at, this is the most flexible and impossible to like really make work for busy people as fast as possible.
Thank you, everybody.
Plus, you get to make a lot of new friends.
Yeah.
Like, that is the best part. Like, they will be in your life forever.
Evergreen friends.
And I know that there's a member who's been quiet on here. Anna, hi, thank you for joining. Did you have any questions you wanted to ask? Well, the floor is yours.
Hi. Yeah, sorry, I was driving earlier. Yeah, well, I already had a question for Melanie earlier. I just, I'm not a morning person, Kara, right? Yeah. So on the West Coast, it's like 6:30 and I don't want to miss classes. So I think I'm going to sit this round out, but definitely curious if you're open to moving that time in future sessions.
Making a note, Anna, later start. Yeah. And Anna is in graduate school right now to get her art therapy.
Expressive arts therapy. Yeah.
So ideal candidate for this. And we've talked about it before too. And she's a graphic designer because she's awesome. So
thanks, Kara.
Anna, we had people, like Ollie was mentioning, we had people jump on late that were in California or in another time zone and just start late and make that part of the class up. So I'm not a morning person either. I feel your pain. Like even being up at 8:30 and on camera was like just on fire, because I actually I did eventually adjust to it. I found out like what sunrises look like, which is kind of a shock that they happen every single day and they're really pretty. But I feel your pain about that. But if that doesn't work for you, you really can start late. And I know you don't want to miss anything, but it will work out if you want to do it that way. But we will definitely look at alternative scheduling as well. We might just have to go to Bali and have a retreat.
Ooh, sounds rough.
I wouldn't mind getting up early in Bali. We could do it, right?
Yeah, I could do that.
Thank you,
the
Anna.
Sounds of the jungle.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, it sounds really wonderful. Like all the things that I want.
Yes. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. I'm going to let you guys get back to your beautiful Fridays. You'll get an email from me with all the notes and the links and the coupon code and everything. But thank you so much for your time in this really important conversation. And thank you for being people who want to change the world.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.